Good morning and welcome to Thursday Series. We're glad that you can join us today. Today we have two guest speakers that are joining us from California, Dr. Andrew Doan and Julie Doan, who've flown all the way out here for a lovely cold winter day. And Dr. Doan is a neuroscientist, PhD, and an MD, and his wife, Julie Doan, is an RN, and they have both been speaking and studying about the effects of video games on the brain. So today they're going to be talking to us about how video games affect your brain, both good and bad. So right now, if you'll join me in welcoming Dr. and Mrs. Doan.
It's a beautiful day here, and we're so glad to be here.
He forgot his coat, so we run inside because it's a little cold here.
It's awesome. So the next video I'm going to show you all are not of voices from actors or actresses. They're actually from family members and of video game addicts. And so when you watch this video, keep that in mind.
All addictions are driven by desire.
So really what we're talking to you today about is what has a hold on you. Do you have a hold on it, or does it have a hold on you? And who do you worship? And how we show what we worship is what we spend our time and our money and our effort and our free time thinking about.
A disclaimer, I am active duty in the Navy, so anything I say today reflects my own opinion and not of the Department of Defense. And so I actually work for the Navy. Today, I took time off today. Actually, I took 3 days off to come out here and speak to you all. But I am now head of addictions and resilience research in the U.S. Navy. And so my task is to study the effects of gaming and also pornography and things that we look at and how that actually affects the body and its physiological function. But a little background about myself. I went to Johns Hopkins Medical School, received an MD PhD degree there. I also had 6 full-ride scholarships for the MD PhD program. But I'm not sharing that with you to brag, but to show that I do have a background in neuroscience, but really I come from this a family with high expectations. And because of those high expectations, I didn't know how to deal with my stress, and so I was a video game addict myself. So I was playing video games and doing online activities approximately about 50 to 100 hours a week for over 10 years. I nearly lost my medical career, almost lost my marriage with my wife here. And so this is a picture that she took of me while we were in Baltimore.
So time and time again, I would say to Andy, because you can only do, right? We all have 24 hours a day. And so if you're spending 10 hours a day playing video games, what else are you doing? He was also going to medical school. So it's like no sleep, no family time, horrible hygiene, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in the picture there, you can see Andy's forehead's like super greasy because who knows when he took a shower, right? That's our son, Nicholas. He's now a senior in high school. He's graduating. Andy missed out on this. He actually doesn't even remember me taking the picture. Nick and Kate, our two oldest kids, missed out on their father because their father chose not to spend time with them.
And what's sad about that picture is that I look at that picture and I recognize, one, I had more hair back then. So maybe I would have had more hair now if I didn't play so many video games. Who knows? But the screen that you see in the background, that was the first massive multiplayer online role-playing game called Ultima Online. This is the predecessor to like Asheron's Call, to EverQuest, to World of Warcraft, which is we also call as WoW. And so I was there playing literally 24/7 sometimes through the weekend, did like 3 days straight of gaming in order to hammer out little ingots and build armor for my clan and just do this crazy stuff and not sleep at all. So in this parable, Luke 13, passages 6 through 9, it talks about a barren tree that does not bear fruit. So the landkeeper approaches the master and says, "Master, there's a tree here that does not bear fruit. Let's yank it out. It's taking up resources. It's wasting our space in this garden." The master says, "No, let's dig a boundary around the roots. Let's give it special attention. Let's give it water. Let's wait for a year. If it bears fruit, fine. If it doesn't, we'll replace the tree." This is why we're here. There's a lot of benefits to digital technology, and we're going to show you the research on that. But anything that's too much can also be harmful to your mind. And that's what addictions do. They destroy the mind, and they destroy your chances of bearing fruit and doing what God has set you out to do in this world. So this is all based on medical science. We know that games increase hand-eye coordination. At the University of California, Riverside, there's a team of research scientists that design a video game that increases your vision from 20/20 to 20/15 vision. They gave it to the baseball team, and the baseball team played it for, note how I say, half an hour a day. With a half an hour a day, their batting averages all increased for that season. We also know that through medical research, surgeons who play video games are better microscopic surgeons and laparoscopic surgeons than their teachers who don't play video games. We also know that video games reduces anxiety and depression. So I'm actually writing a research protocol on studying how we can use social gaming to improve people's depressive states and see how long it lasts. So perhaps 30 minutes a day for 3 days a week can help people with post-traumatic stress syndrome, anxiety, and depression related to their trauma on the battlefield.
But don't be deceived. Grand Theft Auto 5 is not what we're talking about, right? Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about games that have you think about things that are good and healthy.
Yeah, so research out of Iowa State by Douglas Gentile shows that pro-social gaming improves pro-social behavior. But anti-social gaming and violent gaming actually encourages those behaviors towards people in real life. And that's research that's actually been done by even Bushman at Ohio State as well. So it's confirmed by multiple laboratories.
Well, and it's confirmed in the Bible as well, because the Bible encourages us to think on these things. None of those things say gorge on horrible thoughts, right? It's good, lovely, those things.
And then I'm going to show you evidence here of how gaming can be the new digital drug. So what I mean by digital drug is that, for example, when someone plays a video game that's violent, within 20 minutes of play, their blood pressure can actually go up to 190/140. So that the brain is driving a physiological response to the adrenal gland to increase norepinephrine and other neurochemistries, right? Or neurohormones in the body. So this is studies out of University of Washington where virtual reality gaming is used for pain control. This wounded warrior has a major burn on his body, but through virtual reality gaming where they throw snowballs at penguins and snowmen in the game. So that's if you show the screen here, you can see the penguins and the snowmen. The gaming allows the nurse now to scrub the burns in both pediatrics and adults patients. So when you ask these patients how you rate their pain, they actually say it's very low and the treatments are fun.
And then there's negative, right? And I think that we all know someone, at least one person that lives in their parents' basement that either dropped out of college or even graduated with a low GPA, has no desire to do anything but play games. And that's not the healthy thing that we're talking. That's not good. The bad things that happen when you play games have to do a lot with sleep deprivation. Your body needs to detoxify at night. That's why you need at least 8 hours of sleep. Gamer rage. We were talking to the high school kids, and we were talking about how you'd throw your controller through the drywall. And that we've had a lot of people come to us and say, I don't know why my kid's destroying my basement. The video games are there. Okay, why are they punching holes in the wall? Why are they breaking the furniture down there? Well, it's because they're gaming and they're raging. What happens with depression, anxiety, and antisocial, we saw on the other side, it can help you, but it also can cause that. Because if you're playing so many games, your body is used to having those hormones raging in your body, and then when you take the games away and your hormones stop doing what they were doing, you start to feel low, and then you play games and it goes up, and then it's a cycle. Failure to achieve potential. You know, Andy is lucky, he is blessed, whatever you want to say. Playing 10 hours a day would destroy most people's lives, and it almost did. But some people let that happen. It can take away your future. We've had a lot of interventions with young men who are freshmen in college, and they've decided that they're going to play games because their parents aren't around. They don't tell them what to do, right? So they're playing games all the time. They skip class. They don't go to sleep. And then they drop out of school because they're failing. Andy and I experienced the family abuse and the extreme violent behaviors. I ended up having to leave for my own safety and my safety of my children. We moved to my parents' house in Oregon. We were living in Baltimore at the time. I had a restraining order against Andy because it was a realistic fear of mine that he might hurt us. He broke chairs, he punched things, he threw things, and so I needed to leave because he was going to hurt us.
So the medical research shows that internet gaming disorder runs about 1 in 11 people. Okay, so in a college like this with 3,500 students, you're going to have a handful of people at least that are going to struggle with this. Now, keep this in mind is that you don't have to be addicted to be affected by the gaming too, because there are people that fall in between, right? We're going to show you videos of people on the extreme side of gaming addiction in this talk, but obviously the 10 and 11. If you're spending only 2 to 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day on something that's like a digital narcotic that stimulates your mind like that painkiller that allows the nurse to scrub burns off of burn victims, could you be doing something better with your time? And that's really what we're trying to show you, is that we're going to show you data so that you can actually make these wise choices in your life. So these are brain scans of internet addicts. And when you show them game footage of their game of choice, their brain lights up in the prefrontal cortex in the dopaminergic pathways that are linked to addictive pathways similar to those that are seen in brains of alcohol and drug addicts. It makes sense. Things that are pleasurable in life, we abuse. Who abuses broccoli or abuses cauliflower? Raise their hand. Right? So the brain dopamine system, if we didn't have brain dopamine, we wouldn't procreate, we wouldn't go to college, we wouldn't seek jobs, we wouldn't seek pleasurable things.
Warmth.
Warmth.
It's freezing here. Warmth.
However, when you do something too much, it can be harmful. So how does that work in terms of behavioral addictions? So I simplified my hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis pathway down to two organs, the brain and the adrenal gland. Through the brain, because we look at things, and I think that the best example is sexually explicit material, okay? We look at sexually explicit material, it turns on our body through the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal and gonadal axis. It changes your hormones so that you have immediate physiological response. That is what the addict is addicted to. It's the adrenaline rush. It's the hormonal rush of whatever behavior or substance that you take that causes that change in your body. But be very careful though, because the body, when you stimulate it artificially, there's a whole down regulation of that axis. So your body doesn't produce it naturally anymore. So you have to do more and more of that behavior or take more and more of that substance to get the same effect. That's the problem of replacing natural joys in life with things that are artificial. Does that make sense? So now I'm working on a case study that we're working now on men that are young, 30 and under, who are having erectile dysfunction because they overuse sexually explicit materials. They cannot have an intimate relationship with their spouses anymore. Is that crazy? Because the body has downregulated that whole system.
So we really have to be conscious of what we think is who we become, right? We cannot think that what we expose ourselves to has a non-effect. Everything that we expose our brains to has an effect on us, positive and negative. But we think that we can just do whatever we want, think whatever we want, and it doesn't affect us. It absolutely does. Absolutely. These guys who are 25 years old, they're active, they're good looking, they have beautiful wives, and they're having problems, like enough to go to the doctor.
So this is the cycle of addiction. Usually we have an emotional trigger. We can't handle stress in our lives. So it causes a craving to search for a ritual and then a substance or behavior that helps us to escape. It's all about escape. But then after that, we get this little guilt hangover. So what I talk about is that when you do things that are sinful, it's fun at first, but you get that sin hangover, right? You get the hangover the next week or the next month, and you're like, wow, I shouldn't have done that. That causes now additional emotional trigger, and every time you repeat this cycle, it strengthens or increases your chance for abuse. And see, for me, I grew up with a lack of self-confidence because I was an atheist for most of my life, so I didn't come to Christ until I was 34. And so for me, it's all about accolades and what the external world can tell me. And so I'll just give you an example. So I grew up in all-white neighborhoods as a Vietnamese immigrant. You remember the movie 16 Candles, or is that too old of a movie for you all? Okay, there was a long duck dong.
It's retro now, right?
There was a long duck dong in that movie. My name was Phuong Duc Doan coming over to the United States. My brother's name is Phuong Ding Dong. So we were Big Phuong and Little Phuong, okay? So I was the long duck dong of the neighborhood, constantly being picked on, not being able to fit in. So when I went into med school and we were married, and we had now racial tension in my obviously melded family, right?
He has a Buddhist family, and mine is not. His family hardly speaks English. Mine does. We had, beyond that, and I thought Andy was the one that fit in the most. Of the two of us from high school, I would have said, he was so popular, people didn't even know me. Like, seriously, when he was saying that, I was just thinking back to that he was a 3-sport letterman, he did all this stuff, he was the king of the school, but he felt like nobody.
And the amazing thing is that my mom, even 10 years after being married, she was still looking for a Vietnamese wife for me. Okay, so you can tell that was stressful in our family, right?
We had 2 kids too.
So she taught me, she was speaking her thick Vietnamese accent. Andy, no smoke cigarette, no look at bad things on the computer, no drug, no alcohol, you be loser. But she then would say, here's all the computer stuff that you want. And I found my escape through gaming. So when we had marital problems and family problems, this was my digital drug of choice, which led to the 50 to 100 hours a week of abuse.
It's really not my fault. Makes it sound like it, though, doesn't it?
Not your fault.
So basically what we're saying is too much of anything is a bad thing, right? Water is a perfect example. You need a certain amount of water to be healthy, but then if you have too much, your brain swells and you die, right? Hyponatremia. So basically what we're saying is if you can manage this, manage it. If you cannot manage it, cut it out. You heard on the video, I am not an addict. I can stop whenever I want. Well, then stop. You know what I'm saying? If you think you might have a problem, go on a video game diet and stay off of it for 6 weeks and see what happens. It may be enough for you to get free of it.
So what happens when we remove people from their addictive behaviors or their addiction? So in this video, you're going to witness that. This woman was fed up with her boyfriend who plays too much, and she set up a camera in his room, and we're going to see his reaction. Now, he swears a lot, and so I edited it out, but I couldn't find the beep, beep, beep thing on my Mac, so you'll hear this Tinkerbell noise, and that's what that is.
Okay, so my boyfriend just left for the store because he has to get smoke. And he thinks he's going to be waiting all night. But let's see what that. All he does is sit on this stupid computer and play this stupid game. And I'm getting sick of it.
So there's a thing called activation, and when an addict is exposed to not the actual substance, but the anticipation of their whatever they think they're going to get, their body already starts revving up. So he's having gamer rage before he even started because his hormones are they're anticipating playing games. Now, let's be honest, okay? This is a game. This is computer. This is virtual. There is no real world application to what he spent thousands of hours building. What could he have built? What relationships could he have built had he invested those hours into people, into skills, right? Like, what a waste of time. I'm doing an inductive Bible study in Luke right now, and Jesus says, you need to know what's happening. You need to know the time. You need to know the season. And he's not talking about that it's winter, because we all know that. We're talking about world events. We're talking about when he comes back. If you are having your head down, you're not going to be able to stand up, and you're not going to lift up your head, and you're not going to know what's going on. How much more can we build into the kingdom of God when our heads are up and we know what's going on? So Andy showed you some brain scan images of people that were addicted to video games, and it proves that your brain thinks you're addicted to video games. Well, it's the same thing true with our phones. We love our phones. If I don't leave my phone, if I leave the house without my phone, I am panicked. It's like I've left one of my kids at home. Same, and I know you guys do the same thing too. If we don't have our phones on us at all times, we panic because we love that thing. And what brain scans have shown is that we literally love that thing. Our brains light up in the same place as what's located for love, same thing. We adopted the cutest baby from South Korea, and so we try to get her into our talks. When parents and adults and educators think about stuff like video games and technology, we're always thinking about vegetables. We're talking about building into your life, making your better math games, whatever. Okay, so that's the veggies. The candy's like GameStop, right? All the stuff that you can buy in there. And we're always thinking, oh, this is going to make their lives better. But really, your brains aren't formed until you're 25, not fully formed, and it's back to front. So your frontal lobe's still not working yet unless you're over 25. You are unable to make good choices. It's not in your nature. And so, are you going to play it?
Yeah, so my daughter loves vegetables, and she's eating this plate of broccoli, and I just decided to whip out my cell phone and tape her because I know she loves candy more. So this is the question I ask her.
Hi.
How old are you?
6.5.
Okay, Emily, do you like broccoli?
Yeah.
If I gave you a choice every day and put a huge plate of your favorite candy in front of a huge plate of broccoli, which would you eat first?
Candy.
No hesitation. And it's, hard for me too. If I've got chocolate cake and I've got broccoli, of course, I'm over 25 and I want the cake. So LA Unified School Districts did this experiment for us. They purchased $1 billion worth of iPads for their high school students. But guess what? The high school students jailbroke the iPads within a couple weeks for pornography and video games. They had to recall the $1 billion of iPads. So what's interesting about this is that when you look at technology executives, and this was published in the New York Times several years ago, is that when you asked HP and Yahoo and Google executives and even Apple executives where they send their kids to school and how they use technology in their homes, they actually are devoid of technology in their homes. And they send them to Waldorf schools where technology is not implemented until after 18. What do they know that we don't know? Really? Why are they pushing that stuff on our kids and they're keeping it from theirs? There's something is going on that we need to be aware of.
So let's look at human brain scans and let's study how human brains develop. So these are brain scans from 10 years of research at the National Institutes of Mental Health. Blue means hardened brains that are been programmed. Yellow, red, orange brain areas are unpruned, fresh brains to be programmed. Notice how at the age of 12, things kind of switch from young brain to now more mature brains. So can you teach an old dog new tricks? It's very hard, right? There's something in neuroscience that says that neurons that fire together, wire together. So at a young age, we want our kids, all young kids, to develop fundamental skill sets of things that are healthy. And so here's an analogy that I developed with my wife that explains how brain development occurs.
So hold up your hand. This is benefits of video game, communication skills, relationships, what's that other one?
Empathy and self-control.
Empathy and self-control, and then athletic ability. So so Kaiser Foundation did a study, and they say that 7.5 hours a day are devoted by the average American teenager to online activity that has nothing to do with education. So leisure activity, 7.5 hours a day. That's this, right? Nothing else is being developed at all except this. So you're losing out on so many things that you could be developing. And really, this has a small part in our lives that's beneficial. For the rest, it's not.
So what's interesting about this is that Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers. And he basically observed the same thing. He said that Tiger Woods is born, for example, with the genetic ability to play golf, but without 10,000 hours of practice, he doesn't manifest those skills. So essentially, that's the 5 little finger analogy. So now you have a child who plays 7 hours, 38 minutes a day based on the Kaiser Foundation. They're great at getting turned on with the screen. They're great with hand-eye coordination. They're great with doing headshots, and they're great at doing mathematical calculations that are enough to calculate their energy needs for the game, or how many bullets they have, or whatever trinket that you need to buy in the game that you can calculate quickly. However, they lack communication, they lack empathy, they lack connection to others and family, and they lack self-control. You see the problem? So if you can't train an old dog new tricks, how do we expect to train this whole generation of essentially vidiots as they enter adult age? It's very difficult.
So one of the things that I noticed, which was actually really frightening, is this young man came to us and said that we were doing an intervention for. He'd flunked out of freshman year in college. He had left his home and took his computer with him only. Okay? No clothes, no toiletries, no money, just his computer. So his family found him and they brought him to us to do an intervention. He said he would rather die than be bored. Really? Really? That's a first world problem, my friends, right? Like the line at Starbucks is too long. Oh, okay. Really? So boredom creates creativity. Our country is so overstimulated. We've never been so less. We're so littly creative right now because we're overstimulated. Necessity is the mother of invention. How would we know what we need if we're always with our phone in our face?
So the solution to addictive behaviors is really a sound mind, body, and spirit, and being Christ-centered. Because if you are, you'll know what to do and how to moderate. And that's what I just want to emphasize. Because if your mind is sharp, you're going to be intelligent. If your body is healthy, you're going to be energetic and be able to be called to do mission work and do things that God's calling you to do. And if your spirit is founded, you will have integrity and know what to do. So this is my son who was at 12 at this time. And because I was a gaming addict, I didn't pour into his life. And so he didn't have a strong foundation, didn't know how to be a man, didn't know how to be a confident child. And so he would cry, run to the bathroom and cry because he would rather have one kid see him cry than the entire class see him cry. So my wife would then bring me to the bedroom, shut the door, and yell at me and say, fix your son, you know? And so this is what we also counsel too, is that after fixing the addictive behaviors, there's all these potholes, right? All this like 10 years of ugliness in our marriage, and now I'm trying to repair. And so thank God I had him, because now being a Christian, I said, Nick, I can't fix you. But you know what I can do? I can walk with you, read the Bible with you, and let's learn together. And we did that. And so we unplugged him from the video games, and then he found his love in running. It was amazing. One day he decided to run track and field, and this is his junior year, and he tries out and turns out to be super fast. And so this is him praying with his team in a secular school, about 3,500 students.
Yeah, they have 3,500 students in their class, and we live in Southern California, which I know you guys know isn't like a hotbed for Christianity. So he has been able to witness to people in his struggle, and God has been lifting him up. And he's still struggling here and there, but God's taking care of it. Nick ran a 4:11 mile, 1,600, and that is fast. He ran a 3,200 in 9:05. He has a scholarship to University of Portland. They took third in the D1 national championship last year, third. They're the second smallest D1 school in the country. So Nick is having the opportunity to glorify God. Even in his struggles, God is taking care of him. So here's Nick signing on signing day.
And it's amazing. And let me share with you the relief that I had. I mean, this is his junior year. If he did not unplug from the video games, then he would not been able to show the colleges that he could run this fast to sign on. Okay? But I saw this reversal that there's no way I could have done this for him, was the reversal in his confidence, in his ability to walk upright at school, and also just to see his life change from a kid who's almost failing in school in terms of several classes. His grade point average dropped below 3.0, then now he climbed to now a 3.7. It was miraculous. And so for me, I'm just so thankful that this is awesome. And then, so obviously not everyone's going to be fast, but in your DNA is encoded special gifts and passions that if you don't unplug from your addictive behaviors, you'll never find what your passions and gifts are.
So if Nick decided to unplug at 35, running would not be an option for him, but that's what God created him for. See the parable of the tree coming to life? If he wouldn't have figured that out, he would have missed it.
So thank you very much for your time and for allowing us to share. My book, Hooked on Games, is on Amazon, and it's free. So if you download it through Kindle, I've made it free for the next 5 days. And so you can actually learn more about our history and the citations and the research about gaming addiction. Thank you very much.